All right, remember, the machine knows if you're lying. First statement, Carvana will give you a real offer on your car all online.
False.
True, actually. You can sell your car in minutes.
False? That's gotta be...
True again. Carvana will pick up your car from your door, or you can drop it off at one of their car vending machines.
Sounds too good to be true, so true.
Finally caught on. Nice job. Honesty isn't just their policy, it's their entire model. Sell your car today, too.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Whether you're deciding what gifts to buy or which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right. PrizePicks. Our entire Footballers team has been excited each week to share our PrizePicks lineups, and now the NBA is in full send mode. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in, boys and girls. Tuesday, December 23rd here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew, back from the desert Betz.
Kyle, come on. You can't intro and say December 23rd. We need like a Merry Christmas, you filthy animals, or a ho, 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 or something. Come on, man. Christmas is 2 days away. Get in the spirit.
We have another podcast that we will be doing, the Dynasty one, that comes out Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Maybe I'll up my game there.
Put on a Santa hat.
I'm not really a Santa hat guy. It's not really my thing. I think it's because I have the head of hair that I'm not trying to hide anything. Did get a haircut.
Hey now, I mean, as your friend, your hair looks good, if I'm being honest. But yeah, man, back from Arizona. It was an awesome trip. We missed you guys. Wish you were out there, but it was great to get out there and celebrate the holidays with the team and all that good stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever you I don't know if you feel this way for NFL and stuff, but just anything out of the ordinary for a routine, traveling or you miss a game or something, you just feel like you're so behind on everything. So I was trying to catch up on Monday and just kind of fill in the gaps on everything for what I missed. But I thought it was a really exciting Week 16. Lots of good football matchups, and that Bears game Saturday night was insane, and lots of good finishes this season, I would say, rather, but just really this week. So good football hopefully carries over into Week 17. I will say, Kyle, I don't know if you saw the team totals for Week 17 slate. There's a couple of nasty ones on this slate, starting on Christmas, so it should be fun.
Yeah, the Chiefs. This isn't the Chiefs that we know and love. In fact, this isn't the Chiefs that the marketing team for Netflix and everybody else, wherever these games are played, or maybe that one's on Prime.
This one's a Prime one, yeah, Thursday night.
The marketing execs for this week did not think, man, Max Brosmer, he's going to be in all of our, creative ads and everything that we have. Chris Ludekin, maybe that's not the guy that we thought we would be promoting next to Bo Nix. Do you remember the ads 3 or 4 weeks ago? It was Nix versus Mahomes on Christmas Day.
Division on the line. Well,
yes.
They also probably wanted, Dak and Jaden for a chance at the NFC East. Yeah. Well, things have gone sideways, but
the NFL has a ton to play. There's a ton that's at stake in both conferences.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You look at AFC, you look at the NFC, and you're well, there's a lot at play. I will say that we are now at the point of going a little bit overboard of sports on Christmas. I remember when I was a child, maybe I'm a little cranky here, there was one NBA game, and it's that is your team gets to play on Christmas. I got hit with the other day where there's 5 Christmas games from the NBA, and I just told him, I said, whoever the production people are for these games, I feel terrible for them. This is what they now have to live with from now on, is there's 5 NBA games, there's 3 NFL games. That's just a lot going on.
Yeah, it's too much. It was kind of cool when they did one NFL game and you're all right, it's the end of the day. It's
That's
at night.
a special game.
It's a special game. We've all had our Christmas time with our family and all that stuff. And then you're sitting down just to end the day, and it's like, oh, cool, football's on. I'm good with that. But yeah, 3 games throughout the day, and I used to be kind of into the NBA slate just because it's like, oh yeah, I'll set a DFS lineup for Christmas and just check it throughout the day, but like I'm not really watching the games kind of thing. But now I feel like I have to watch these games, and like, I don't want to have my Christmas be ruined by Max Brosmer. So, but that's possibly going to happen. So yeah, man, it is too much. I'm with you. It's wild. You go from Monday night, 3 games Thursday. We got another couple of games on Saturday, of course Sunday, and then Monday we get the matchup that everyone's been talking about all season: Rams and Falcons.
Oh, I am excited about it. I
am excited for that too.
I did look up tickets because a couple of my friends still want to go to the game. Don't know why, but still want to go to the game. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that'll be fun to sweat it out. So I am looking at options for Monday night in the Benz just to see how things go. If you want to look at everything we have, you can go to a special website, ChristmasFootball.com. I still love that we have that domain. We get to say, at this time of the year, ChristmasFootball.com. We'll get all of your picks, everything that you could ever want in your heart, ChristmasFootball.com. On this podcast, we will talk the Christmas slate. And then on Friday, we will focus on the main slate. We kind of were talking, and we could preview the main slate. It's only a 9-game one, but there's just so much that's going on for these 3 games. And then we will divert our attention later on in the week. So if you want all that content, that'll be out later on this week. We did have some people that won quite big this past week. I am looking at Woodchopper in our Discord. Won $750, took down first place. I see a lineup with Bijan. I even see Ashton Genty in there. It was played at 1.3% in this contest.
I could have never landed on Genty in the spot. Which
Would you have landed on the Genty plus he also played Parker Washington at less than 1%?
Penn State legend, Parker Washington. He might be good. Dude, this is such fantasy football like 101 right here, where it's like, we don't know what we're doing. We're just trying to guess, make educated guesses, and figure out what might happen on a Sunday. And I was thinking about this last night watching Phillip Rivers, who obviously at the end, they fell off, lost the game. But like in the first half, Grandpa Phil was cooking. And I was like, man, like if you could tell yourself 3 or 4 things throughout the season that happened that you're like, what the heck? Grandpa Phil starting meaningful games for the Colts in week 16, week 15. Ashton Genty as a 14.5 point underdog on the road against Houston, who basically, let's be honest, has been for the most part a pretty bad pick in fantasy for what you were expecting at his round 1, round 2 draft cost. Explodes for 35 DraftKings points. Like just the most random stuff happens every year that you're like, what are we even doing here? But man, what a lineup. And honestly, like if you told me you get to create 200 lineups this week, I don't know if I would ever have landed on that combination. So yeah, there's merit in DFS and being unique. Like we love the stats and football takes and stuff, but like at the end of the day, this is a game and you're just trying to build lineups that have a chance to vault to the top of the leaderboard. The way to do that is get high ceiling players at very low roster percentage. So yeah, congratulations. Woodchops for this first place finish. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, I was thinking about a lot of players in best ball that were just completely dust. Like Ashton Genty is going to be a very, very low advance rate player. However, there is a chance that it will be a high, his finals advance rate, if you somehow got through with him, is massive. Same thing, like I had a team that had Derrick Henry and Genty on it, and it didn't make it to this week. It made it through the playoffs, but Genty sunk me the week before, so it didn't really matter. But it is interesting, the players that I took stances on in our rankings, where I was like, man, Genty, he's not a first-round player to me. He's like, I felt great about that the whole year. And then you have this point right here, you're like, man, it's kind of like Ricky Pearsall last year.
Yeah, that's a good example, yeah. Did you get any teams through?
No.
Any finals teams?
No.
Me either. I had 6 going into this week, knocked across both sides, knocked out. In all of them, Tyler Warren, dude. 8.5.
Dude, don't
8.5 points, Kyle.
Dude, don't talk to me about the end of the year with Tyler Warren, because it's sad, and it's sad because of what it could have been. I will say my best team this year in best ball was a team that we drafted on this podcast.
Oh, I'm reminded daily in the Discord. people like to make fun of me for not finishing at the top of the leaderboard.
For some reason, that team is lapping the field. I mean, it's like hilariously, like, over the top. This team is crushing everyone.
I think if I remember correctly, we both were like, didn't really love that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I didn't like my team.
Yeah, exactly. Which tells you everything you need to know. No one knows anything in this game we play.
Yeah, why don't you give us a little update on our props? We had another great week. One of my favorite things was getting to body Isaiah Williams on the podcast, and then it just came through at the very end. But yeah, good week for us.
Dude, I was able to watch a little bit on the plane ride home Sunday, and I was in the middle seat, which is the absolute worst.
Ooh.
But because we booked a little bit last minute, like my wife was one row up and across, so she wasn't next to me. So I was sitting next to two randos, and I had the Jets game on in the fourth quarter.
As most do.
As you obviously would in December.
Very important game.
Very meaningful between the Saints and Jets. And we had Breece Hall under on rush attempts. We had Isaiah Williams under receiving yards. And there may have been multiple fist pumps with incomplete passes with like 2 minutes left. And I swear these people next to me were like, what is wrong with this guy? But this is the life we chose, Kyle, okay? So yeah, it was an awesome week, man. Over the last 2 weeks, really, has been incredible. We're 20-5 over the last 2 weeks. On the season, that puts us up 25.82 units on the year. So another amazing season. And I will just say we are aware of the swings of this, right? Like we've had a couple weeks where it's like, oh man, we really got crushed. We've had a bunch of 6 and 5 weeks where it's like, okay, good, not great, like it'll happen. And then you have a few of these weeks where it really helps make your season. I had multiple people in Discord ask me after the fact, hey, is this a good time to increase my unit size? No, this is the worst time to increase your unit size because as with anything in DFS or investing, there is swings in everything, right? So we've had an amazing 2 weeks. Would it be shocking at all if we went like 5 and 8 this week? Of course not. So no, now is not the best time to increase your bankroll and unit size. That's something that I do and I think about and like consider in the off season. So for the rest of the year, it can be very tempting to be like, oh, we're doing great. Let's just up it here. I would not do that. I would advise against that because we kind of all know how this goes.
Yes, I have the conversation every single year in relation to DFS. Should I play more now? Because, there's, people give reasons like, oh, there's only casuals around or only. No, I actually find the exact opposite. The people still playing are the ones still with a bankroll and still are degenerate enough to be playing week 17 and week 18 DFS with a bunch of backup players where they're looking at projected time. So I would not increase your bankroll. We actually do the opposite.
That feels like a personal attack on me, Kyle.
I'm saying I would not want to, like if I was just a random person, I would not want to go up against you though. Like that, where you get to do this, you get to look at this. The people that are looking at this day in, day out. Also notice, like in DFS, the field sizes have shrunk
big time
of what they're offering. So it was good week for props. Any updates you want to give on season long stuff and some of the things that we still are waiting on?
Yeah, if you guys rode with us throughout the summer, it's always kind of fun to get to like week 15, 16, 17 and kind of realize what you're still sweating or like what just cashed. And quite frankly, I didn't even realize some of these tickets cashed because I haven't been paying attention, but I looked at my accounts and I was like, oh, cool. So you guys will probably feel the same. Checking in on the Raiders, Kyle, over 5.5.
Are they are not live?
No, they're dead. They've been dead for the last 2 months. But we did cash San Francisco over 10.5. We have the Giants under 5.5. We had the Browns under 5.5. And if you remember on a week 5 show we took live the live total on Baltimore under 10.5. That cashed as well. So good stuff there. We're still waiting on Detroit. We took to miss the playoffs, which I really wish like for NFL fandom and watching they would be in, but it does look like they're going to miss. So we have a plus 210 ticket on that.
Which feels great.
Yeah, for sure. We have Eagles under 11.5. That one's going to be sweaty because they take on the Bills this week in a huge game. And then depending on what happens with the rest of the NFL and what they do this week, week 18 could be meaningless. So we could see some backups in there. So just need them to lose one of the next 2 games. And then we also have a couple that are like really fun long shots that I think have a legit chance. We have Dak to lead the league in passing. He is currently 4 yards behind Stafford. And the Rams take on the Falcons, so I don't feel good about this. But we do get Dak against the Commanders this week. We'll see. And then we also have Puka to lead the league in receiving. He is getting very close to JSN, who's kind of cooled off a little bit recently. And obviously Puka exploded on Thursday night. So some fun sweats down the stretch here. Hopefully everybody out there has been able to get a profitable season, not just in props, but some of these features as well.
Yeah, and if you want to ride with us, dfspass.com, we go all throughout the playoffs. We will continue to be giving props, talking about every single slate, all of those things. Let's take a break, and then we'll break down this Christmas slate.
All right, remember, the machine knows if you're lying. First statement, Carvana will give you a real offer on your car all online.
False.
True, actually. You can sell your car in minutes.
False? That's gotta be...
True again. Carvana will pick up your car from your door, or you can drop it off at one of their car vending machines.
Sounds too good to be true, so true.
Finally caught on. Nice job. Honesty isn't just their policy, it's their entire model. Sell your car today, too.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
State of the main slate.
So before we break down these 3 games for the Christmas Day slate, we'll also give you some props at the very end. It's not the most encouraging Christmas Day slate. Like it's not must-watch TV. The Cowboys and Commanders is the game that starts off at 1 o'clock. So like I'm just thinking about what my family's doing at 1 o'clock. We're having like our Christmas lunch. My parents are coming over. Watchability, it's not at the top of the list, especially if it's going to be Josh Johnson. It's a little different. The Lions game, the Lions have to win both of their games this week, and Green Bay has to lose their final 2 games. So there is a lot to play for here with the Lions. And then we get Max Brosmer. The night game is the Broncos at the Chiefs, or, you know, what they're soon to be called the Topeka, Kansas Chiefs.
I saw that.
Okay, let me just... little side here. If you're a Chiefs fan, this is sad. This is a little sad to me. And I spent a summer in college in Kansas City. Topeka is like an hour and a half away. This isn't like, oh, they're building a stadium. And a lot of people don't understand Kansas, Missouri. Kansas City's like right there in the line. That's just how it works. That's really far away. This is like your dad's dad is waking up from his grave saying, what happened to my Chiefs?
Yeah.
So
End of an era.
yeah, you know, it's definitely different. I can see Kelsey be like, all right, I'm out. See ya.
But the change isn't happening until like 2031 or something, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's not. They're gonna have to build a stadium. There's still a lot of approval and stuff. It's just kind of sad. The game's at 37.5. The Broncos are 12.5 point road favorites. And the Chiefs, last time we checked, have a 12-point implied total.
For context, last week, the Raiders closed at 11.5. Now, they came out and surprised a lot of people, but for context on how the market is viewing this version of the Chiefs, which literally like rewind 2 weeks ago and it's totally different, but this version of the Chiefs is basically the Raiders, is what the market is telling us. So, yeah, I mean, look, we'll talk about that game and preview it. If you want to get leverage on the field in a massive way, you can stack up some Chiefs. It will not project well, but this slate really comes down to 3 teams, honestly. It's kind of what it feels like, right? Like, Cowboys have a massive team, 3 road teams, yeah. Cowboys have a massive team total. The Lions have a 25.3 team total, and they have motivation. The Broncos have a 24.5 team total, and they have motivation to continue to try to hold off the Chargers. So, like, there's 3 teams here that look like they have a good scoring environment projected, and there's 3 teams where it's like, you kind of got to squint. And so I think there's going to be really a couple interesting ways to play some of these teams, especially if there's any like chalk on these, I would say, really fragile teams. I'll probably try to look to get away from that.
It is interesting when you look at, we'll go through some of the salaries and, you know, kind of talk about the context. But like when you think about stacking up games, you and I, when we preview the Thanksgiving slate, we talk about how like, okay, you either want to overstack a game because the way that people play it is they're like, oh, I want a little piece of this game and I want a little piece of that game. You end up spreading yourself so thin that you're eating into a ton of chalk. I'm looking at some of the early lineup constructions. It's like really easy to play a Jared Goff double stack. It's really easy to say, all right, well, if I get 3 Lions, then I will play 2 players from the Cowboys Commanders game, and then I'll play the Broncos defense. And you look up and you're like, wow, that lineup just got duped by most of the field. So what we would encourage you, we don't play cash on these slates. We play in tournaments, and we're also playing as if I'm going to go and lean into having a very, very different lineup. Not like over the top, like I'm not going to play Max Brosmer because I'm not an idiot. But I am willing to say I want 4 Lions. and I want 2 Commanders as opposed to just kind of sprinkling it through.
Yep, I think that's a good way to put it. The other thing on these smaller slates is you can leave money on the table just to get unique, right? Like we talk about that a lot in Showdown, where sometimes these optimal lineups are kind of hitting, leaving $1,000 on the table, $1,500 on the table. That feels bad because we're so used to on the normal slates spending as close to our normal salary cap as you can. But on these small slates, that can work. And, sometimes that also helps just to kind of get different from the field, just from a roster construction standpoint. So a couple of things to consider. And like we talked about, this is a very heavy game theory slate, I would say, versus like these players project great, you should play them, is how I'm approaching it, because there's a lot of variance and there's a lot of, I think, market uncertainty when you think about the Chiefs and what they could do or what the Vikings are going to do. And, we're still waiting on the quarterback for Washington. So just stuff like that to consider. I think it's a fun slate to get off the board. So
you're saying it's more of a game theory, like a nerd slate? Like it's not really a man's man, like Hand of the Dirt slate?
Yeah, like how you would play.
What does that mean?
No comment.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put my hand in the dirt and tell you about some of these teams. Come on, man.
Stack Attack.
Dude, I've been grinding the Josh Johnson film over the last 20 years.
I was going to say that probably will take about 3 weeks to get through. He's
sure
been in the league forever.
I'm sure somebody's going to put together like a really cool thread. Like if I had the video skills, I would put together some video that shows him dropping back to pass, but like every frame is like him in a different jersey, and then it all comes together.
Okay, here's a fun question for you. How many teams has this man played on in his NFL career?
I do not know the answer to this, so I will say 14.
So he's been in the league for a very long time, but he's bounced around at multiple stops with the same team.
Does that count as like practice squad and stuff?
I'm just going based off our player profiles on the site, but it looks like he's been on 11 NFL teams. And he's also spent a year, I believe, in the AFL, XFL, whatever it was back then. So Josh Johnson is 39 years old. He's been in the league forever. Drafted by Tampa long ago.
I want to say, hold on, let me see if I can get the college correct. Does it have his college in the profile?
I will look it up.
I'm going to say San Diego Toreros.
You nailed it. Do you know what round?
Nice. Let's go third.
5th round pick.
Okay.
I'm very impressed you knew that.
Well, did you know? Here's the fun fact for the people. I'm sure people out there are like, we already know this, Kyle. Did you know who was once the head coach of the San Diego Toreros?
Who?
Jim Harbaugh.
Look at this. Kyle. Just a couple of guys talking ball.
Dude.
Throwing out random names.
Dude, the other day, sidebar before we talk about this Cowboys and Commanders game, I was with one of my friends, shout out to Evan, just dudes being dudes. We were sitting there at a baseball kind of clinic practice for our kids, and we ended up about 30 minutes just talking 90s NHL players, just back and forth.
That's fun.
Dude, it was a really, really, really good time. All right, let's talk about this game. Dallas Cowboys are 6-8-1. The Commanders are 4-11. This is the Dan Quinn revenge / what happened to you, Dan Quinn? Are you still a good defensive coach? Also, why is Matt Eberflus still a coach in the NFL? He's the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. These are the worst pass defenses in the league. Other than maybe the Bengals, if you want to throw them in there, these teams are the worst. The Cowboys are on pace to allow the most fantasy points all time to the quarterback position, and we've been chasing their games all year long because they've averaged almost 59 combined points per game. So we kind of know the story. I feel like we previewed a ton of Cowboys games this year. We haven't really talked about the Commanders a ton with Jaden Daniels' injury, but we like these teams, and we would say the total is showing at around 50 because the defenses are so bad. And we kind of get passing volume, passing efficiency. Washington's allowing the highest yards per attempt in the league. It's like top 5 over the last decade. It's really, really, really bad. So you really could take this game in a bunch of different directions because of how bad the defenses are.
Yeah, for sure. And you just talk about like top-down view on the slate when you look at the totals. This one is clearly the one, right? It's the only one hovering around 50 points. We already mentioned that Broncos and Chiefs game looks rough. And so if there's one game that you want to overstack, to me, this is clearly the one. And when you think about that, you might think, oh, like the field is certainly going to be on that. I really don't think that's the case. just because when you look at some of the salary on Dallas, like Dak is obviously expensive for good reason. It's an unbelievable matchup. Javonte is not cheap. And then we always talk about this with like Ram stacks and Cowboy stacks on the main slate. It's like, if you want to do the Dak double, you're going to have to pay all the way up for CD and Pickens. And Ferguson is also not necessarily cheap either. So it's very difficult to onslaught Dallas, which I think will keep roster percentage in check on certain players across the board. So obviously that's my preferred angle to attack it, but I also don't hate just saying, look, like, what if the Cowboys roll here and Josh Johnson can garbage time his way there at 4,400 on DraftKings? Like, if Dak is good, not great, and Goff is good, not great, and Bo Nix in that game is a slog, like, could a 16 or 17 point performance from one of these 4K guys work? I think it's possible. So I actually do have interest in Josh Johnson. I probably would skinny him if I'm stacking him, just given that, I mean, even at 39 years old, like, he will run a little bit. So I think that's my preferred route to play it if I am going to play a contrarian quarterback. So who would have thought on Christmas I'll be interested in Josh Johnson?
Yeah, all you're really asking for is a Washington quarterback at 4,400, whatever his name is. You know, it's Josh Johnson here. What does he have to do? And I was thinking about, if this was a full 10-game slate, we'd be like, oh, dude, give me 12 points and I'm happy. I went back and looked at every single matchup that the Cowboys have had this year. The lowest output was Geno Smith, that Monday night game, 13.8 points.
Okay,
so
we can get there.
Yeah, and there's a reason they're giving up the most fantasy points of all time. So 4,400, he's definitely in my player pool. I think Terry McLaurin is the easiest one to be able to stack him with. Like, it's really no contest. And since he came back, so it's over the last month, he's kind of been that dude. 30% first read target share, 2.64 yards per route run. It's the Terry that we saw last year, right? It's like, you're the clear alpha of this team, and he's just not very expensive. So at 5,800, a really simple start to a lineup that gets you different and off Detroit stacks is Josh Johnson, Terry McLaurin, and then add another piece. It could be Debo, who's way too cheap for the slate. I think Treylon Burks is probably going to be somebody that gets clicked a ton because there's just not a lot of players in the 3K range you can have confidence in. You can throw in Ben Sinnott. Like, I like Washington double stacks as a cheap way to start your lineup.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick on Burks, he did run 84% of the routes last week.
That's why he was drafted, for the
again,
routes.
Things you didn't think would even be possible in the NFL in week 16 and 17, but Treylon Burks is a commander and he's a full-time player for this team. But, you know, they just put Jalen Lane done for the year with an injury from last week. So it's starting to get really thin for Washington at the pass catchers. Like, it will be Terry, Debo, and Burks as the wide receivers. We'll see what goes on at tight end. At least last week, it was 69% of the snaps for the sender, Ben Sinnott, and 56% of the routes. Only 16% of the routes for Bates. So if you are going to click a Washington tight end, it would be Ben Sinnott for me. And the appeal of those guys is less about their talent and stuff like that, and more just like, honestly, on a small slate like this, if 2 or 3 catches at this price happens, that might be enough. So really that's the appeal with these guys, is that they're cheap dart throws that you would include in this game stack. So I do have interest in Burks. I do have interest in Ben Sinnott, just given the price point. And I'm with you, like, Terry will probably be pretty popular, but I just think the matchup is so good. Dallas is getting destroyed down the field, giving up a ton of yards per target to opposing wide receivers. We talked about that in recent weeks, even with their additions on defense and Quinnen Williams and all those guys. Yes, the run defense in theory has gotten better, but they're still giving up explosives in the pass game. If you watched Justin Herbert last week, it was easy for him. I don't think he had an incompletion until midway through the second quarter, Justin Herbert did. So I'm not saying Josh Johnson is going to be Justin Herbert, but I think one of these guys will pop up for a big game.
It's wild to look at this slate, the 6 teams here, and the team with the worst record might be the easiest to look at and look at the matchup and go, man, like, when I adjust for salary at quarterback, when I look at running back, which we're going to talk about here, when I look at the wide receivers, I look at Ben Sinnott, I'm like, I kind of like all of these players at their prices. Not necessarily like, okay, here's a crazy ceiling, but if this game is not going to catch a ton of roster percentage, then sprinkling in, let's say you don't want to play Josh Johnson. You're like, hey, I don't think the ceiling's great. I think Dak, Nix, or Goff just have a much higher ceiling, and I want the raw points. You can play 2 commanders here, and they're going to work really well. The running game, I was looking over the last 6 weeks. The Commanders are 10th in rushing yards per game, 13th in rush success rate, 4th in stuff rate, and 6th in forced missed tackle rate. And a lot of that comes down to Chris Rodriguez Jr. I think he's a solid play too at his price point. So it's like, I would be totally fine if it was Josh Johnson, Rodriguez, and McLaurin, or Rodriguez and McLaurin, and those are the two pieces.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of worried last week with Rodriguez because he had some nice momentum kind of as like the lead ball carrier for a month or so. And then he missed that game with injury where Bill was the RB1 against the Giants. And I thought, oh man, JCM ran so well, like maybe they'll even this thing out. They didn't really. It was 63% of the rushing attempts out of the backfield for Chris Rodriguez. So he is clearly the guy you want if you're going to take a Washington running back. I will say on FanDuel, he is dirt cheap, 6,100. I would see him being extremely popular there. But it's a nice spot. And at this spot where you're looking at the salary, it's like if he just gets 50 rushing yards and a score on a small slate, that's probably enough at this tag. So I do have a lot of interest in Chris Rodriguez.
All right, on the Dallas side, Javonte Williams is going to be a popular click. When you start to look at the running back landscape, it's like, is Jahmyr Gibbs, is Javonte, those are kind of the top options. RJ Harvey is also somebody that you can have in the mix. But Javonte at 6,300, I think for his workload, for their implied total, I think is going to be a very, very easy way. If people say, like, let's just say you didn't want to stack up this game. You wanted to go to, play a lot of Detroit. Then you're going to see a lot of combination of Javonte and McLaurin. It's not bad. It's just realize you're going to have to get different elsewhere. But any thoughts about the Dallas side and how you'd want to stack it up?
Not really. I mean, it's kind of one of those offenses where you know where the ball goes, right? With Javonte and with the wide receivers with Pickens and Lamb. I will say it just feels like a huge Pickens spot to me when you think about the yards per pass attempt and the yards per target this Washington secondary allows, where you could see some big plays happen for Pickens. If you want to get a little bit narrative-y on this too, like, Pickens had an awesome game last week too, but he's still looking for this, either re-sign with Dallas or huge contract extension. So he's playing for something here down the stretch, even though the team is mathematically eliminated. So I like Pickens a lot, but if you're going to play a bunch of lineups, like certainly you want some exposure to CeeDee Lamb.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of lineups with both of them in there. Like, they're just too expensive. Because then you're basically saying, if I'm going to play Lamb and Pickens together, I'm probably not being able to fit in Amon-Ra,
right?
Or Gibbs. Like you're trying to have to make the choice. So that is one way. If you wanted to double stack and you say this game goes off, it's a way to do it. I probably won't. I'll probably do the either or approach, which is what the field will do. It's hard clicking the button for Jake Ferguson, even though he's the tight end 2 in pricing. Since CeeDee's return, his roles just looks very, very different. He hasn't hit 10 fantasy points since week 7. So the context of the slate says that everybody's playable because the tight ends are really, really bad. Ferguson, Ben Sinnott, who knows if Hawkinson plays. The Lions have our boy Anthony Ferk Daddy, Evan Ingram. Like, it's a bad slate for tight ends. So I think you can play him, but any other thoughts on the Dallas side?
I will say for large field, if you're looking for like a really cheap option on Dallas, just monitor Flanoy's injury. He left in the first half last week with a knee issue, and it was actually Jonathan Mingo, there's a name, who was the direct beneficiary of the playing time. He was on the field for 16 of 27 snaps with Dak, and Turpin kind of still had his like rotational role out of the slot. So if you're going to throw a dart in large field, if Flanoy misses, it would be Mingo. That said, 99% of the time, he will give you like one catch for 8 yards. But if you're playing the Millie or something super large field, he can make your player pool if Flanoy misses.
Last week was Chargers and Cowboys, and I was watching that game while also having a couple other things in front of me, but I'm always glued to the Chargers games. I have a Justin Herbert stack in one of my leagues, and I'm watching kind of like the game cast where it says like, here's the play that just happened. And it's like Dak Prescott, incomplete pass. I'm like, oh, was that to CD? And it was like, nope, Jonathan Mingo. It was like on a 4th down. I was just so stupefied that they would throw his direction at all.
Stupefied?
That's a Harry Potter reference.
Oh, not a Harry Potter guy.
Okay, this is I don't know if we ever said this in our friendship, but this is actually a very big moment. Are you a Lord of the Rings guy?
I'm lukewarm. If I'm being honest.
All right, well, I know you guys can't see me, but just cue sadness. I feel like that was just a really big breaking point right there.
I feel like I let you down.
You did. It sounds like you don't care about the things that matter.
You gave me the look, and I've gotten this from my parents when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
where it's, look, we're not mad. We're just disappointed. That's the look you just gave me. And now I feel embarrassed for myself.
I mean, we've had off-season book clubs before, and they're usually related to sports stuff. But if anybody wants to reread Lord of the Rings, I will be doing that in 2026.
Nerd.
It's awesome. Any other takes on this game?
I don't think so.
I think 6.5 is a lot. I will just. I think I'm confident the Commanders' implied total.
I like that call. I was going to take the over on the game.
Okay. It is a fun game. I would say, summarizing what we just talked about, this game can be leveraged if the field is not using it as much as they should.
Yeah, especially some of those cheaper options on Washington.
All right, next game is the Detroit Lions, 8-7, at the Minnesota Vikings, who are 7-8. It is wild that these teams could have the same record after this week when they've felt so different the entire year. Like 7 losses for the Lions, you look up, it's like, that is shocking. But when these teams played earlier in the year, Minnesota did win by 3. J.J. McCarthy on the road did his thing, and he's obviously looked a lot better. We probably won't have him in this game. We're going to have Max Brosmer, who's still in my spreadsheets. Whenever his name shows up, it's a dumpster fire picture that shows up.
He was all right last week. Relative for his standards.
Yeah, he's totally fine. They played the Giants and they had a victory, and that's about as much as you could say.
Okay, so this is a conversation for the offseason. But I'm like, I want to remind myself, and I would like you to remind me as well, I am going to buy all the way back in on the Vikings next year, assuming they get the quarterback situation at least stabilized.
Because the market will be lower than it should be?
Yes, and they're going to have a much easier schedule relative to, because last year, right, they were in the hunt for the 1 seed.
Right.
We know how that went. They're going to have, a fourth place schedule, right? With the way that division has gone. And I'm thinking about like the way the season has gone. They've had offensive line injuries the entire year. They just put Christian Darrisaw on IR. They lost their, I think, starting center last week again. Like they've had major issues on the offensive line. They've played J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer. And they're still 7-8. Like I am such a believer in what KOC is doing that I'm bookmarking this conversation for the offseason. Like, I don't know if it's win total, something in the futures market.
Yep.
I think in best ball, we could see Justin Jefferson be like a fringe first-round pick because of the recency bias. It's like, man, let's just zoom out on this guy. So bookmark this, Kyle. We're backing on the Vikings in 2026.
See, what I'm hearing is...
Buttlicker! Our prices have never been lower!
The official Buttlicker team of 2026, the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right.
When I look at this matchup, I look at two defenses that are pretty extreme in their approach. I remember when we previewed this game, we talked about how the Lions, they run a ton of man-to-man, highest in the league. The Vikings, on the other side, Brian Flores' defense, they blitz a ton, highest in the league. It's a very, very extreme approach. So you can kind of sort these teams and say, well, what do they do? Like when the Vikings blitz, where's Jared Goff going to go with the ball? And you and I know it's Amon-Ra on the blitz. That's what's going to happen. He's banged up, but he's a gamer. He'll probably play in this game. On the other side of the ball, you go, okay, who on the Vikings has been really good against man-to-man coverage? Well, one player historically has been good, but this year looks a little different. I even looked at the Vikings receivers over the last month. Dude, Justin Jefferson is being targeted on 23% of his routes over the last month. Addison's at 28%. Jefferson's yards per route run is at 1.11 over the last month. It's like backup production is what we're getting. So I'm going to ask you the big question right here. Justin Jefferson is $6,200. Are we interested?
I mean, last week I pointed it out on our Tuesday show a week ago, and I said, hey, I don't know what this means, but he is $6K. And look, 6 catches for 85 yards. We can work with that on a 3-game slate.
Yes, on this slate it works.
So, yeah, I have a lot of interest here. I mean, this Lions defense is terrible currently. They are 26th in EPA per play since week 10. That's when the injuries just started to, snowball, and it's gotten worse since then. So, yeah, J-Jet's at home. I don't know what the roster percentage is going to be on him, but if it's anything, reasonable, I think it's an awesome spot to attack. especially if you're looking at a way to kind of get off like the chalky Dallas guys, or you just want to kind of get leverage on Amon-Ra or something like that. I do think J-Jets is a fun play for tournaments. You have to understand the quarterback play is not good. The most likely outcome here is like a middling to disappointing score, but we just know the ceiling is there. And this Lions secondary has been atrocious. So yeah, I do like Justin Jefferson here. It's a scary click, but I think that's the box score watchers are going to, look away here just for obvious reasons. But yeah, I'll play some J-Jets and shield my eyes and hope for the best.
I mean, there are other wide receivers in that price range. We talked about Terry McLaurin at 5,800 is going to be an easy click. Cortland Sutton at 6K, I think, is going to be somebody that gets clicked a ton as well. So I can't see him getting out of control. The way that he does is that if people stack up the Lions side and they say, hey, who's the obvious person on the Viking side that I need to bring it back with? It would probably be Justin Jefferson. When you just look at the name and say, hey, 6,200. Addison is dirt cheap. And like I said, he's been targeted more frequently over the last month on a per route basis. I do think there's just not many dudes in that range, 4,700. Other than maybe Xavier Worthy, that you're like, man, I love to play this player and add them in. So I think pricing wise, Addison's going to make sense. Any interest in Aaron Jones?
Yeah, Aaron Jones is a really good play, and I think if you're playing cash on this slate, which again, I'm probably not a no, you don't, Kyle. I think Jones is one of those guys you probably want just for the projected workload, assuming Jordan Mason misses. Mason left early with an ankle issue last week, did not return, and then he was a DNP in practice on Monday as we're recording this Tuesday. In last week's spot, season high in workload basically and yardage. So 44% of the team's rushing attempts and targets. If he gets anything close to that at this price point, that's obviously going to project incredibly well. So I do like Aaron Jones. I think you should be mindful of the pieces you play around him given the projected roster percentage here, but on paper, I think he's a pretty good play.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of lineups that have Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams as a 3 running back build because you're just looking at projected volume, and we're not necessarily chasing ceiling here because there might be games that end up being, 21 to 10. And it's like, okay, well, that game dudded, and you're not looking at a player that goes for 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, Jones is going to be a very easy click. Any interest in cheapies? Jalen Naylor, Josh Oliver?
I got nothing for you. The cheapie that I do think is in play is Isaac Tesla.
Okay.
Tesla, however you say it. He had 33 routes last week, only 18 for Khalif Raymond. So if you're looking at like who would be the wide receiver 3 here, that would be my preferred option. It's a tough matchup, but if you're looking at a guy that just, hey, could you catch 2 passes and one of them is a touchdown? That's kind of what he's been doing all season. So I don't mind that look, especially if you're going to stack up Jared Goff or stack this game. Otherwise, it's really thin down in the cheap range.
Dude, Khalif Raymond looked so freaking fast during that game.
He did, and the Steelers were game planning to take away Amon-Ra and J-Mo, and they were like, all right, well, Khalif, I guess you're up, buddy. And to his credit, he performed well. So yeah, look, if you're playing a 150 side, he should make your player pool, but these guys are a little thin projection wise, which will keep them low in roster percentage.
So on the Lions side, I mentioned earlier that a Goff double stack is going to be probably the just going to be where a lot of lineups start is like, okay, I'm playing Goff, I'm playing Amon-Ra, I want to play Gibbs. It's just not hard to start there. Jameson Williams also is going to project really, really well. He has the highest correlation coefficient of Jared Goff out of anybody on the team, 0.56. So is there any way to get different, or is it just saying, hey, this is a really, really good team that needs to win. They're very motivated. And the offensive weapons are priced up, but they're priced up for a reason because there's just not many other elite options on the slate. So it's like, well, if you don't play Goff, I think that is one way to say I'm getting away from that and just saying I'm playing Gibbs, Amon-Ra, or Gibbs and J-Mo. But I feel like Amon-Ra is almost like a must on this slate.
It kind of feels like it, doesn't he? I will say the way that you can get huge leverage on this slate is just don't play Gibbs. And that's terrifying. But last time these teams played, Brian Flores completely took him out of the game. I don't know if that's sticky, if that's going to happen again or whatever, but just in that week 9 game, 9 for 25 on the ground, he saw just 3 targets. They had to keep him in there for pass protection because they just blitzed Jared Goff over and over again. And if they do that, I mean, I think Dan Campbell will have an answer. That was John Morton last time. But just thinking about this again, game theory wise, it's like if Gibbs is fine, 15 points, 14 points, but the other higher priced guys like Lamb, Pickens, Amon-Ra happen to be the guys you needed on this slate, there's a world that exists where Gibbs is not in the optimal. So it's an absolutely terrifying fade. But again, if you're going to play multiple lineups, just from a game theory standpoint, I think you almost have to at least consider it.
Yeah. David Montgomery is very, very cheap. And so that's the obvious leverage, but he played 18% of the snaps last week. Yeah,
dude, since Dan Campbell took over,
right.
He's just not on the field.
Yeah, it's funny because the personality of Dan Campbell, you think like, oh, we're just gonna out tough them, run it down their throats, but it's kind of like this is our best player, Jahmyr Gibbs. We need to keep him out on the field, and I think the hardest sell for me is like, yes, he might not be able to run like what this past week he had 7 attempts for 2 yards.
That is absurd.
But when you catch 8 balls, it changes things on full PPR. So
yeah.
I really have nothing really bad to say about any Lions players. The elite ones, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo. You said Tesla is a dart throw. I do think there is a possibility where if you punt with one of the tight ends, because it's such a bad slate for tight ends, and they're the ones that catch the touchdown, if it's Shane Zylstra or if it's Ferk Daddy, like one of them could end up being the dude that catches the touchdown, and that pays off.
Yeah. And I will say on the usage last week, it was kind of fun to see our boy Ferk Daddy pop up in the fourth quarter. But really, it was Zylstra that led in snaps, routes, and targets. So if you're going to play one, which I can't recommend in good conscience, but if you're going to play one, for me, it would be Zylstra. I also, and this is kind of off the board, maybe more large field stuff, I also kind of like the Vikings defense here. Like just kind of thinking about the Lions, like they also have offensive injuries, and we know what Goff can do. From a ceiling perspective, we also know what can happen when he's under pressure a ton. And when they blitz, it just increases the variance on like what could happen on a certain play. So again, 3-game slate, looking for ways to get unique. Nobody really wants to play the Vikings defense against the Lions. I get it. But on a smaller slate, again, we talk about this on like Thanksgiving and stuff. It's like if you just need one defensive touchdown, a special teams play, like whatever, you can't really predict it. I'm going to lean into variance here and hope for the best, especially if you're playing large field stuff.
Yeah, they're 2,700. I think the easy click, and because I think there's going to be enough salary to go around, is going to be the Broncos at 3,700.
For sure.
Like it's at the point where I'm thinking about in large field, the Broncos defense is going to be 50% plus.
Probably.
You just go around, just like not a lot of people want to play around with Cowboys and Commanders. Commanders are a fun punt play. The Lions are obviously in play too against Max Brosmer at 3,200. The Chiefs are a punt play that I just don't. I'm kind of ruling them out of my player pool. They're going to project fine for cash, but I think that the ceiling of the Broncos is what is so scary when you're hand building lineups.
You don't have any faith in what's this guy's name? Chris Aludican?
Chris Aludican.
I mean, if you're not spending the next 2 days before Christmas watching Chris Aludican tape, are you even trying to win in DFS?
No, the real story of this slate is you showing your lineup probably like midway through this game, the Lions and Vikings game, and you have Ferk Daddy in your 150 set, and you show her like, hey, I got Ferk Daddy at like 6%. And she's like, who's the Ferk Daddy? I know about Sam Laporta. She still thinks Sam Laporta is playing.
Look, if you want an awesome conversation starter at your dinner table sometimes at the holidays you see family that you don't necessarily want to see, but you kind of have to see, we've all been there. If you want a conversation starter at the holidays, just show her the lineup with the Ferk Daddy in there.
There are players that maybe your grandma sees on the screen that she goes, she's plugged in to the NFL, right? But she's like, wait a second, Max Brosmer? Who's that? Ferk Daddy? Don't know that name. Josh Johnson? He's still in the league?
What a slate, man.
She still thinks that Treylon Burks plays for the Titans. She was like, I remember that trade. And then we get to this next game and you're like, oh man. So my Vegas take on this game, 44.5, Vikings at home. I think I would take Detroit -6 still.
I think I would too.
It's all Dan Campbell. That line is Dan Campbell to me.
Well, it's all Dan Campbell. It's quarterback play for the Vikings. They've got at least 3 starters in the offensive line out. I think it's a couple of things.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll talk about one more game. All right, this game is Christmas evening. So Betz is tucking his kids in. He's saying, hold on, I've got to go watch Bo Nix take on Chris Aludikin at Kansas City. We talked about it earlier. They have a 12-point team implied total. Woof. Broncos are 12.5-point favorites. The over-under is 36.5. Merry Christmas, everyone. The Broncos are the number 1 seed. They still have a lot to play for. Everybody in the AFC has something to play for. In fact, everybody has a mathematical shot of the 5 teams that have clinched to still be the number 1 seed, which is wild to say that.
That's crazy.
That all of them have the shot. Like the Broncos, let's say they win this game because they're heavy favorites. They still have to play the Chargers next week, and that's going to settle some things. The Broncos are interesting. So they come off a really tough loss. It was a great game to watch, Broncos and Jaguars, this past week. But over the last 6 weeks, Betz and I were talking about this, they are number 1 in the NFL in pass rate over expectation, even above the Cardinals. So Bo Nix is getting a drop back. He's getting to chuck it. And sometimes it's like you're throwing on the run, you don't need to. But you do get a Broncos offense that has opened up a little bit. So it does open up some possibilities.
For sure, yeah. Obviously, for this game, we're expecting Pat Bryant to miss. Scary hit, man. That was... I don't know if you saw the hit, Kyle. Like, literally, I would still be on the field. Like, that man got absolutely destroyed. So not expecting Pat Bryant to play, which opens up a little more opportunity for guys like Troy Franklin, maybe Marvin Mims as a dart throw, stuff like that. But really, it's been Cortland Sutton, who's been awesome. 10, 10, and 12 targets over the last 3 weeks for a 28% target share. So if you're stacking Bo Nix, clearly he's the preferred guy. I do think you can play him with RJ Harvey because of how much they target the running back position in general. So it's not really one of those slates on Denver side where I'm looking for like ultra sneaky options. They do, they'll do the little Jordan Humphrey stuff and whatever else, but like really, if you're playing Bo Nix, it's hard to see him having a ceiling or being kind of the optimal quarterback without Sutton. So even though I do project that to be somewhat popular, I think that's probably right.
Do we have any interest in the other wide receiver share? Because Sutton, I think, is a solid play. He's going to project well in cash formats at 6K. Like, I'm going to be playing Sutton. I look at the other options, and I feel like the way that you do gain some leverage is if you figure out the other Denver Broncos pass catcher, which at least with Pat Bryant not there, unfortunately, clears the air for Troy Franklin, opens up Marvin Mims as a dart throw. Evan Ingram is 3K, which Evan Ingram sounds like a terrible click on a full PPR site with no other tight ends. It's not the worst punt in the entire world either. So any interest in these other dudes?
Especially if you're looking for kind of contrarian options, late swap type stuff.
That late night hammer, you know?
Evan Ingram, the late night hammer on Christmas Eve. Of course. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I'm interested.
Okay. I think RJ Harvey at 6,500 is getting the touches that we want. And he's funny because he's really inefficient for like 70% of the game. And then he has one big play that kind of pops. That's kind of what he's done throughout the entire year. And that's kind of what you're hoping for at this price point. It's Javonte, we mentioned earlier. It's Aaron Jones, Gibbs, and RJ Harvey. Those are the running backs. And then Chris Rodriguez is the cheaper one of the group if you want to go that direction. But do you think you will see a lot of 3 running back builds in tournaments? Because normally we're saying we're shooting for ceiling, but on a 3-game slate, I don't think that like I have to have a wide receiver in the flex.
I truthfully haven't looked at building lineups and stuff like that yet, so I don't have a great answer, but I would assume there'll be a lot of three running back builds.
Yeah, I mean, the early optimals are Jones, Javonte, Gibbs, and I think Harvey's going to be in the mix. Probably maybe a little bit lower in projected ownership, but he's going to look just fine. Do we care about the Chiefs? Like Xavier Worthy is a cheap option at 4,900. Hollywood Brown, 4,200. Another cheap option. It's just really hard to get there with any of the guys other than just a one-off.
For sure, yeah. I'm really just approaching the Chiefs as, oh crap, I'm way behind. What do I do? I'm not going to start with them, quite honestly. We're still expecting Rashee Rice to miss. He was a DNP on Monday, still in concussion protocol, so we'll see on him for sure. But if he's out, in theory, you're like, okay, great, we have options here. You can go to Kelsey. Xavier Worthy was a guy people played in cash last week. But it's like, man, just with the quarterback play and the systemic risks here in a difficult matchup, it's tough to see it outside of, like I said, just game theory and low roster percentage where you need a contrarian option. So in those instances, yes, I'm interested in swapping. Otherwise, I don't think I'm going to start with them. And that's not how I'm going to approach the slate, is how I would say it. The interesting thing on this is I think a lot of people will just connect the dots of like, okay, Rice out, Worthy and Hollywood are the guys that would benefit. It was actually Juju that was out a lot there in 2 wide receiver sets last week. A little bit more 12 personnel with Noah Gray. I would assume they'll do the same thing this week. And if that's the case, I will likely have a pretty big fade on Hollywood and hope for the best.
Dude, I've faded Hollywood for 4 years. It has worked out well 95% of the time.
The one time it's not going to work?
Probably this week. It's
absolutely.
4,200 is obviously in your player pool. Travis Kelce, 4,500. I think the part that we're baking into projections is the emotional part of like, oh gosh, this team has nothing to play for. Oh gosh, his quarterback's gone. Oh gosh, he doesn't want to be around this next year. But when you look at just other tight ends on this slate, you can't really go too many other places. So would you project him to see either the most or the second most targets on the team?
Probably the most.
At 4,500, that's doable at tight end. But the other options are the cheap punt plays. Ingram at 3K, Ferk Daddy, even Hawkinson, if he plays, is way cheaper. So is he too expensive for this slate and for his team that sucks without Mahomes?
I think he could be fine on DraftKings if he catches 4 or 5 balls and can get to like 50 yards. The Broncos have actually given up a lot of efficiency to tight ends. But when you think about FanDuel scoring, where it's like, you got to have touchdowns. 12 points, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm having a tough time talking myself into it. That's the tough part about this time of the calendar. It's like you have these guys that have nothing to play for from an NFL standing standpoint. They're veterans, all those things, but it's like Kelsey wants to go out on a high note. So could you talk yourself into a story where it's like maybe they just pepper him in the last couple of games potentially of his career, send him off on a good note and all those things? Like, sure, but there's also the systemic risk. So I'm going to give a cop-out answer here on Kelsey and say I will likely allow roster percentage to dictate how I handle him. If he is going to be popular, happy to come in underweight or fade. If he's not going to be insanely popular, happy to play him and just kind of hope that they hit him with a bunch of easy looks and just kind of get him going.
Okay. My favorite way to attack this game is if you're going to play 3 pieces from the Broncos, you're playing the Denver DST, you're playing one of Harvey or Sutton, and then you're probably throwing in Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram's my favorite on DraftKings.
You can also play it just like you would in Showdown. If you wanted to just onslaught it with the Broncos defense and Bo Nix, I feel like people probably won't want to do that, but you certainly could.
No, that makes a ton of sense. At 6K, he's a great tag there. The line is 36.5. That feels pretty low. I don't have any confidence in the Chiefs' implied total, despite being at home. So I think I would just take Broncos to score 25 points.
I feel like this is one of those on a short week divisional matchup that like they're begging you to take Denver minus 12.5.
I won't be doing that.
So I will be taking Chris Aludican plus 12.5 points at home. Just, I don't know how, but just that's what I'm taking.
What's going to be funny is we're going to have somebody write in years from now and they'll be like, hey, remember that one time you took that Chiefs quarterback and you're like, what was that guy's name again?
He's going to be an awesome, remember that guy?
He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
Never forget.
Yep.
Prop it like it's hot.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, if you want all of our props, you can find them in the DFS Pass, dfspass.com. I had someone that messaged me the other day that said, hey, I can't play DFS where I'm at, but I still want to do props. How do I do that? I go, oh, well, those are available and available to everybody in our Discord. Every state, every place is different. But yeah, we keep going all throughout the playoffs. The prop that I have for us is RJ Harvey, the Broncos running back, over. Yep, giving it over. 14.5 receiving yards. He's hit this in 4 of his last 5. His 24% targets per route run over the last month is second on the team. And he's averaging 4 targets per game. So he's basically the second leading receiver on the team, and Pat Bryant not being there opened things up.
And over. Kyle, you're a sick man. I'm going to take Kareem Hunt under 21.5 rushing yards. It is a very low line. However, you look at the trend of his playing time in the 3 weeks since Isaiah Pacheco has returned. His snaps have gone from 59%, 49%, 24% last week. His share of the backfield, 55%, 32%, 27% last week. He's the guy that they want in close games or when they're leading. Obviously, game script with the spread suggests that will not be the case. I think we see a lot more Pacheco. And look, it's the end of the season. They're not going to the playoffs. Rationally, see what you got in Brashard Smith, right? So I just think the playing time here on Kareem Hunt is pretty fragile. So give me the under 21.5 rushing yards.
That's going to do it for this episode. On Friday, we will talk about the Week 17 main slate, break down those 9 games. Betz, why don't you wish everybody Merry Christmas?
Oh, man. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you guys have an awesome holiday. Enjoy spending time with the family, playing DFS, sweating some props, all that good stuff that the holiday was really meant to be about. We will have best plays up in the DFS Pass for this 3-game slate, probably later on Wednesday. Check that out, and then we'll see you guys on Friday. Preview the main slate. Good luck.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.